the Christian Circle podcast, and you're listening to Pamela Fernandez, where we have conversations about Christian living. Here's the show. Welcome to a new episode of the Christian Circle podcast. Today we have Charles back again with us talking about Mother Teresa of Calcutta, or Saint Teresa. Before we go on to the podcast, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Attention church leaders, are you looking to grow your church membership and congregation? Look no further than noahseventvenue.com/church. Noah's Event Venue rents its location out to church groups just like yours for Sunday worship services, Bible study, prayer groups, Sunday school, and more. So come ye 2x2 to Noah's. For more information, just give us a call at 843-455-6845 or visit us online at noahseventvenue.com/church. Don't forget to ask us about getting 1 month free. That's noahseventvenue.com/church. We'd love to have your congregation meet at Noah's.
My name's Charles Johnston, and I have a blog, now that I'm Catholic.com, and a Facebook page. And I've been a Catholic for a few years now. I'm really excited to be involved in the new evangelization and be doing this podcast with Pamela. This is probably our 12th saint we've done now?
Yeah.
Monthly for going on a year now, so it's great. I'm really enjoying it.
So, who are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Mother Teresa, or Saint Teresa of Calcutta. That's kind of new. I'm still calling her Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
That's what she's been my whole life.
So
Saint Teresa of Calcutta doesn't roll off the tongue as much, but trying to.
So, where was she originally from? She's not an Indian, so she's Albanian, right?
No, she's not Indian. Yeah. She's originally from Skopje, or Skopje, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the capital of Macedonia now, but at the time when she was born, it was part of the Ottoman Empire. So she was part of an ethnic minority, Albanians, but also Albanians are generally Muslims.
Yeah.
So they're like 70-80% Muslim. And the Albanians that are Christian are generally Albanian Orthodox. So she was a minority within a minority within a minority. So I'd imagine that probably shaped the way she's seen the world growing up, because it would have been a real tight-knit community, her parish community in the town there in what is now Macedonia. And she grew up in a very, very tumultuous time in the Balkan area. You had the First and Second Balkan War, and the First World War, all while she was, very young.
So, in a way, it is that God can call you from anywhere, right? No matter how small, how restricted, how bad the conditions are.
Very much so.
And she mentioned her call when she was 17, or was that when she became a nun? She came to India first and then...
As a child growing up, her family was a very devout family, very devout Catholic family, and her father died. I think she was 8 or 9. She was 8 or 9 years old, so at a very tender age. She lost her father, and her mother was also very devout, so she started attending daily mass with her and everything. And she was very fascinated with the stories of missionaries to mostly to Bangladesh. She was very fascinated with the stories of the missionaries to Bangladesh, and she wanted to be a missionary. And I read that as young as 12, she had set her mind to becoming a missionary. So that was what she was really felt called to do. And she ended up joining. She was a young lady. She ended up joining the Loreto Sisters. So that's kind of an Irish group of nuns. And their charism would be like teaching kind of missionary work throughout the developing world,
And so at 17, she decides to become a nun?
Yeah, and she joined the Loreto Sisters. And she joined the Loreto Sisters, and she ended up going to India with them.
Okay. And just to tell people that she went to Calcutta, right? Calcutta is one of the worst cities probably in India, the most crowded, one of the most, the poorest, of all the metropolitan cities in India.
Right. I mean, Calcutta's on the east side of India, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where she ended up. And she taught there for a while, too. She was a teacher. I think her class was was it history and geography and social studies, and she taught the children of would have been kind of the more affluent members of society from Calcutta who happened to be Catholic.
Yeah.
You know, she taught their children and everything, and that's where she received her what she called her call within her call.
Mm-hmm. And what was this call within a call?
Well, she was on the train to Darlingen. Is that how you pronounce
Darjeeling.
it? Darjeeling. Okay. she was on the train, and she had this profound sense that Jesus was calling her to go, because, you know, she taught inside this kind of like a compound. You know what I mean? It was a compound set off from the rest of the city, and it was only kind of affluent people could send their children there, things like that. So she felt this call that Jesus wanted her to follow him into the slums, you know, into the poorest of the poor, into the just the gutter of society, basically.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's an overcrowded, poor city to begin with.
Yeah.
And then she feels called to go into, you know, the heart of the city to minister to the sick and the dying. And so that's what she felt this call, and she went to her bishop, the area, I guess the bishop of the area, and she told him that this was her call. And so she went she got released from her vow of obedience, I guess you'd call it, to the order, the Sisters of Loretto. And she went in and she started by herself too. So here she is, this tiny lady, because she was really small.
Yeah.
And she went in and she just started ministering, and she started helping, because her mother had taught her. It was, you know, she made it famous later on in life, but the 5-finger prayer. You know, it was, "You did it to me."
Yeah.
When Jesus said, you know, when at the judgment, he'll say, you know, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was sick, you nursed me. You know, when I was in prison, you visited me. When I was naked, you clothed me. And they'll say, when, Lord, did we do this to you? And he says, when you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me. And so that was kind of what she lived her life by, was this call to service. You did it to me.
In a way, those are like our spiritual and corporal works of mercy too, right? That we should be doing every day. It's kind of our call as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, she kind of personified the corporal works of mercy. Like, when I think of, like, literally, when I think of the corporal works of mercy, I can picture Mother Teresa. That's who I think of.
Yeah.
But she was doing something that we're all called to do.
Yeah.
You know, we see it as this radical act, and it was because she gave up everything and she went and lived among them. But, you know, we don't have to give up everything. We don't have to live in slums to also perform these corporal works of mercy. You know, you can do it right where you live, right where you know, because God calls you where you're at in life.
Yeah.
So if you're a husband and a father like myself, I'm probably not called to go live in the streets of Calcutta and minister to the sick and dying. But I mean, here in Arizona, there's plenty of people that I can help out like that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that she said all the time, is not all of us can do great things, but we can all do little things with great love.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of my all-time favorite quotes. Never mind just from her. That's one of my all-time favorite quotes, just because it's so true, isn't it? That we're not all called. Like, not everyone's called to be martyrs. Not everyone's called to write a theological treatise. Not everyone's called to be the Pope or a bishop. But we're all called to do little things with great love. It's kind of that Teresa of Lisieux kind of spirituality. You know? Yeah. And that's what, Mother Teresa, that's where she gets her name from. Is because her birth name was Agnes.
Yeah.
And when she took on, when she became a nun, she took on the name Teresa in honor of Teresa of Lisieux and Teresa of Avila, both of them. And Teresa of Lisieux probably only predated Mother Teresa by a couple of decades, right?
Yeah.
Late 1800s, she was early 1910. She was born, so.
That's interesting, right? How all the saints influence each other and influence the future generations of saints. Yeah, that just kind of goes, you're paying it forward, basically. Your holiness is inspiring somebody else's holiness down the line. Yeah. It is. It's pretty inspiring when you think about it. Since this month we're talking about building vibrant parishes, why is it so important that Mother Teresa spends so much time on community building? Like, she works, and now the group that she's actually working is not just poor, but they are untouchables in India. So in India, we still have this concept of untouchables and Dalits. So why is it that
Right,
she
caste
has?
system.
Yeah, we still have that system. I mean, it still exists.
Right.
So why is it that she spends so much time on this community building? Today, the missionaries of charity are in all countries throughout the world doing this community building. So why is this horizontal aspect of the cross so important?
Well, because it's, in the readings coming up actually this coming Sunday, in the second reading, St. James talks about the how if a rich man comes in, don't treat him with any greater honor in the assembly than a poor man, and don't make a poor man stand in the back, because St. Paul said, there's no slave or free, no Greek or Jew, we're all one party. So the caste system in India might exist in a civil way, like civil society, but in the church it doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as untouchables in the church.
Yeah.
Jesus died just as much for the King of England as he did for the untouchables on the streets of Calcutta.
Yeah.
And that's really a powerful message for especially societies that have existed as long as, Indian society and like Eastern societies have been around forever. It's a powerful message, this liberating message of Christ that there's no one better than anyone else. We're all on the same field, same level playing field here. That Jesus died for every one of us in the exact same way. And also, like, we all think that Jesus died for everyone, but he also died particularly for you. And that's a powerful message to tell people, especially people that have been unloved and like you said, untouchable. To be told that there's, the God of the universe became man, came to earth, and died for you. She spread that message through love and action.
So why aren't we as Christians doing the same thing, or doing, if not as much, at least doing a little towards, the people who are unloved and unwanted in our own societies locally?
Right. I think it's a lot of it is we think that's someone else's job. Like, that's not my job. Well, what's your job? Well, my job is to sit in the pew every Sunday and put a couple dollars in the basket. Well, no. Yes, that's your job, but every one of us, it's our church. It's not the church of just, it isn't the priest's church. It's our parish. Each one of us that are a member of the parish have just as much of a share in the parish and in the church as a whole. Like, every one of us that are a Catholic, that are a member of the Catholic Church, has as much of a share in the church as anyone else. So we all have to pull our weight. But we all kind of, and I've done it myself too, I mean, I'm guilty of this as anyone else, is we think, oh, well, that's that's the other guy's job. Or it's like you'll see a stranger in church that you haven't ever seen before, especially if it's a smaller parish. And like that person's not from around here. We'll walk over and shake their hand and say hi. Welcome to our parish. But we don't do that. I went to a Byzantine parish not too long ago just for Divine Liturgy, just to kind of check it out, because I kind of like things Eastern, And the second I walked through the door, head spun and looked at me like, oh, this guy ain't from here. And one of the people walked up that wasn't even an usher, walked up, shook my hand, said, welcome to our parish, here's the priest, you want to talk to the priest? I was like, okay. You're like, I got introduced to everyone, like, hi, how you doing? I'm Charlie. Okay, hi. And then I sat down, and then as soon as the liturgy was over, okay, come on over here. Here's the parish hall, we're going to have some food. And like, they were very overwhelmingly welcoming. And that's how we're supposed to be. And not just with, not just with strangers, but welcoming a stranger is one of the corporal works of mercy. But also, like, you see someone that comes in, like, in my parish, Phoenix, it's not too far off the freeway. So every so often, like, homeless people, like panhandlers, will come in and say, like, and you can see people kind of turtle-eyeing them, kind of looking out of the corner of the eye. And like, well, yeah, someone's going to help them, but go over and talk to that guy, but nobody wants to be the guy that says, yeah, here, let me get in my car, let's go to McDonald's, like, get a sandwich, or let's, no one wants to be that guy. Everyone wants it to be somebody else. It's passing the buck all down the way. And I think we just think that, our parishes are so built up, and our organizations, especially in the Catholic Church, and we have all these different organizations and all these different charities, that somebody will take care of the problem. But that somebody's you. Who was it? Was it Teresa of Avila that said, Christ has no hands on earth except yours and no feet on earth? Yeah, that's very true. And then when I stop, I try to remind myself of that when I see a need, because I passed the buck forever. I was just a pew warmer. I would go on Sunday, I'd sit in my pew, I'd get up, I'd walk out, I wouldn't say hi to anybody, I wouldn't do anything, I was just there for Mass, and that was it. And now I try to remind myself, like when I see a need, I am just as much the hands and feet of Christ as anyone else. And so how am I to pass the buck? I have to deal with this. If it's something too big that you can't deal with, then take it, bring it to somebody in the parish, say, here's a problem that I can't deal with. But if it's the person that needs a ride, or someone needs help with their car, or you need to, a homeless person's asking for a sandwich, don't say like someone else is going to take care of it. Don't pass the buck. That's what Mother Teresa never did, pass the buck. She was there, and if there was a need, she handled it personally.
Is it that we are afraid? Is it because of fear?
Yeah, it might be. Kind of fear of rejection, fear of kind of overstepping your bounds. Maybe kind of putting yourself out there, being vulnerable by offering to help. And sometimes help will get rejected.
Yeah, I know that.
I've actually a few times, seen a homeless person, on the corner asking for money. Hey, pal, you want a sandwich? Can I buy you, a burger? No. No, I'm not hungry. I want a few dollars. And, they want money.
Yeah.
Okay. But they reject your offer of food. Or, like, pull over. And a couple times, I'm a big guy, though. So I pulled over one time, and there was an old man and an old woman trying to change their tire and having a hard time with it. And I said, like, okay, I actually passed them on the freeway. And then I heard my mother's voice in my head saying, like, why didn't you stop and help them? So I turned around, went all the way around, made a big loop, and come back. And I pulled up, and I got out of my truck, and I said, hey, do you need some help? And the old guy stood up with the tire iron and said, you get out of here.
Oh.
I guess he thought I was going to rob him or something. But, yeah, you put yourself out there, and sometimes you get rejected. So I think that might be, a lot of it is just passing the buck, though.
Okay.
Whether it's out of just, laziness or fear of rejection.
What about those people who would say that they're doing way too much and nobody else is helping them? Like there are certain people who are always helping, who are always part of the initiative. So what would you say to those people who are kind of fed up that other Christians are not stepping up to the plate?
Well, I guess I'd say, if you quit, it isn't going to inspire anyone to start helping even more, So that's definitely not the solution. Yeah, it's I heard a statistic one time that said, like, in the Catholic Church, for every 100 people sitting in the pew, there's one person helping.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Like volunteering in the parish. And that really has to change.
Yeah.
And there's so many different programs that can be helped. And even if it's just being an usher and just greeting people at the door, or, a lot of parishes need help with the Eucharistic ministers, extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion, or I actually got trained to do that this spring, so I'm now a extraordinary minister of Holy Communion.
Wow.
And it's it's pretty awe-inspiring to be, I really don't know how to put it into words, but to be able to say body of Christ or blood of Christ, and hand it to another one of my fellow parishioners. It's hard to put in words, but I love it. And I've only been doing it for a few months, but there's, because my church has a scheduling program, and there's always, they need more help at all times. Like, there's people, like, it'll be full of the schedule, but then there'll be 3 or 4 people that are requesting subs because they can't make it to that particular time. And there's some people that serve 2 and 3 different masses. And the way one of the people at the volunteers up on the RCIA program told us all when we were going through it is, you're going to be in Mass anyway. You might as well work while you're there. So, if you go to the 11 a.m. Mass, volunteer to be an usher at the 11 a.m. Mass, or be a lector. They're always in need of lectors. Or it doesn't even have to be a liturgical ministry, just your parish. I guarantee anyone listening to this right now can go to their parish and find a need where they need volunteers. 100%. Guarantee. Every position isn't filled. They're happy to have the help. And you don't have to be an expert. Like, you don't have to have a degree in theology to help out at RCIA.
Okay.
I'm completely unqualified, and I volunteer every chance I get just because I love, once you do it, once you volunteer, once you step out, you volunteer, you say, okay, I'll do it. It really, you get a kind of it's like getting a bug, And then you want to just keep doing it. But yeah, the people that are doing stuff right now, and they feel like they're not getting any assistance, they're not getting help. Imagine how Jesus felt on the cross. You know, he had 12 hand-picked guys. One of them betrayed him, one of them denied him, and only one was at the foot of the cross. He was doing pretty bad in the batting average percentage there. So how do you think Jesus felt being abandoned by everyone? So if you feel like you're working in your parish and you're doing this and doing that and nobody else is helping, then just keep at it. Don't give up, because that's definitely not going to inspire more volunteers. But just pray for more volunteers, pray for more help, because it's in giving that we receive. St. Francis of Assisi said that. It's in giving that we receive, and it's in dying that we're born to eternal life. That doesn't just mean death at the end of your life, but dying to self. It's in giving back. You get so much. I was just talking to my cousin the other day about this too. You get so much from your parish. The sacraments that get administered to you, the community, the fellowship, and we don't give back. We could never give back as much as we get, because we receive Jesus every time we go to Mass. But we are really kind of indebted, and we do have to give something back.
You yourself learn so much, right? Haven't you felt that by serving in all these ministries that you have grown as a Christian yourself?
Immeasurably, That's what I make weekly videos too for like reflections on the scripture readings I post on Facebook for the weekly Mass. And really, it started from when I was in RCIA. We would discuss we'd get the pages of paper that was next week's readings at that session. It's every Sunday after Mass we'd have a session, and I would read it, study it all week, and then we'd talk about the next Sunday. And I felt like it was such a people wanted to really talk about it, really discuss it, and everything. I felt really blessed to be able to read it, think about it for a week ahead of time. So I started doing that and started sharing it with people, and some people liked it. Surprising to me, people actually wanted to hear what I had to say about the scripture, so I've done it more often and more often. But in doing it, I've received, way more than I've given. It's a strange thing, because I'll read and study on the script for weeks in advance of a reading, and then I feel like I'm growing spiritually. Like I said, in giving you receive. So I feel like I'm growing spiritually more than I'm really giving to anybody. And then also, like, if I write a blog post on something, it's I think Flannery O'Connor said, I write to figure out what I know. I do that too. Like, I'll discover things like, hold on, I don't know too much about this subject, so then I'll go and study it. And that's so I have grown in just my understanding of the teachings of the church and the history of the church, just from trying to help explain things to other people. I've grown even more myself. And then in my prayer life too, just being part of these different ministries. You pray, each one of the ministries, they all gather before Mass or before a session and have a prayer and stuff. And it really does. It helps you in your own spiritual growth, because going from being just a casual Catholic every Sunday to being an involved Catholic, it really is a big difference. In I don't know how to explain it, but it does. It leads to immense spiritual growth to be able to help serve and give back.
And speaking of spiritual growth, Mother Teresa had a very intense spirituality, because her ministry was so difficult. So that was every day in the morning Mass, 1 hour before the Blessed Sacrament. So what can you explain about her spirituality, which strengthened her ministry in a way?
Right. Well, the interesting thing about their, if you've ever seen a chapel for Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa's group, if you ever see their chapel, there's no pews or kneelers or anything. It's just a big open floor, and they all kneeled on the hardwood floor through the whole Mass. And some of us will complain sometimes, kneeling on a padded kneeler, and it's I was at the cathedral here Sunday, and I had to sit in a kind of a pew, kind of like a bulkhead seat, like if you were on a plane, and because I had my son in a stroller next to me, kind of parked off to the side, and there was no kneeler. And so I kneeled on the marble floor, and I was like, oh man, this is, and I kind of complained at first in my head, and I thought, well, no, because I thought of the Missionaries of Charity, how they just kneel through little frail old ladies, and I'm a young man, so I just kind of sucked it up and went with it. But they wake up at like 4 a.m. They had a very a very, I would say, disciplined spirituality, kind of very regimented. And it was, they'd wake up at 4 in the morning, they'd have prayers, and they'd done the liturgy of the hours of the day. So they had the morning prayer, the noon prayer, and the evening prayer. And they also had mass every morning. Mm-hmm. And then they would go do their work and stuff, and they would come back for lunch, and they would go do more work. Mm-hmm. And then in the evening, they would do vespers, like evening prayer. Yeah. And then they'd have an hour, a holy hour, for the Blessed Sacrament. And so that was really a very disciplined prayer life, a very disciplined spiritual life. Mm-hmm. And we need that. Yeah. We really do. I've been trying to get into Liturgy of the Hours lately. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm even doing it right, to tell you the truth, because it's very involved. Mm. But I've been trying to do just the morning and the evening prayer. Mm. I don't know who, except for our monk, would have time for all 5 hours. Yeah. But it would be very difficult, because each one takes 15 or 20 minutes. But it's really good to have that kind of structured every morning, every evening, have that structured prayer. And like in some places, real Catholic countries, you'll hear the Angelus bells go off at 12. And everyone prays the Angelus at 12. Yeah. And as far as being a Christian country, America is kind of going the way of secularization, so you don't hear church bells much anymore. Yeah. But that's also a regimented, disciplined thing, being the 12 o'clock noon prayer, just putting time aside to pray at certain times. And the Eucharistic adoration, that was really where she drew all of her strength from. Because physically she wasn't a strong person, but spiritually she was immensely strong. And she had I'd say she had a very Christ-centered, Christocentric spirituality. And, she was very, very much into the Eucharistic adoration. She would do that a holy hour every day, no matter what. Like, the world could be ending, and that was on the menu, And so it's something that we could all really take a cue from, to have that kind of disciplined prayer, and also to set time aside for Jesus. Yeah. And not all of us have time to do a holy hour every day. Yeah. But, there's an hour in the week that you could find to do it. And the daily Mass, too, that would be a real boost to your spiritual life, doing daily Mass.
And this is a woman who suffered from tuberculosis, and she...
Oh, yeah, she had malaria 5 times.
So she's been sick, but she still managed to do all of these things.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that came first. That's what she said, too, is that the prayer, you don't gain in your prayer life through your work. She said you get the strength for your work through your prayer life. Yeah. So to carry out the type of work they were doing, which, is very difficult, caring for the dying, people with leprosy and AIDS, and people dying of cancer, that, the best they could do for them is give them aspirin, Yeah. So you can imagine the people wailing in pain and stuff, and that would be hard. That would really drain you. And the only thing that could keep them going would be having a very, rich spiritual, rich prayer life. Mm-hmm. Which is funny, too, because Mother Teresa suffered from a spiritual dryness. Like a dark night of the soul kind of, for, I think, 40 or 50 years. It was a long time.
What do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a phenomenon that a lot of saints go through. Mm-hmm. That they have this, it's kind of an invitation. I feel that it's kind of an invitation from God to really get closer to Him. Okay. And to really persist, even if you aren't feeling it, even if you aren't feeling like it, even if you're feeling far from Him, He's never far from you. And so it's an invitation just to grow deeper in your prayer life. That's what I feel like it is. But she probably didn't feel like that. But she persisted, though. That's the thing you got to, that's a long spiritual dryness to go through. And she persisted, and she never wavered. She never doubted God. She kept going, even though she just felt distant from Him, felt far from Him. She knew that, through the promises of God and Christ, that He's never far from you.
And this is important, I think, currently because of all the accusations within the church right now, that no matter what period we are going through, we need to be faithful to Him through prayer, right? And the best thing that you can probably do for the church right now is pray for your priests and pray for the church and whatever it's going through.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, all these things that are going on are horrible,
Yeah.
you know, but from a theological perspective, it's nothing new.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, Solomon said that 4,000 years ago, or whatever it was, 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
There's nothing new under the sun. This is, you know, if you think about it, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, that every, you know, generation has to fight a certain heresy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there was the Gnostics and the Arians and the Nestorians and the Pelagians. There's been heresies and fights for the truth and for, you know, fidelity to the truth, all the way back to the first century. You know, in the very first century, there was the Judaizers that were saying, you know, you have to be circumcised, you have to keep all the Mosaic law, and that was dealt with in Acts 15. So, I mean, before we even get out of the New Testament period, while they're still writing the New Testament, there was controversy. And it really, you know, like Bishop Barron said, that it all comes down to infidelity.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're not being faithful, because infidelity means unfaithfulness to the teachings of the church. And you don't judge a philosophical, you know, system or a religious system or even, you know, a civil government system through people who don't practice it or practice it terribly. You know, you don't judge something by that, so you can't judge the church by that either. But no, even through this period we're going through, you have to remember that it's not new. Nothing's new. I mean, if you live back during the Borgias popes or the Avignon papacy, you know, you'd have seen all kinds of, you'd have seen some degeneracy and all kinds of things. But you got to know that Christ established his church, and he promised that the gates of hell wouldn't prevail against it. So scandals come and go. The people who cause scandal come and go. Crimes committed against people happen. As horrible as that sounds, I mean, it happened. It's being dealt with, hopefully. You know, we gotta trust and hope that it's being dealt with. But a lot of the things that have come to light too have happened way far in the past. It's just now coming to light. You know, so in America we have a thing called the Dallas Protocols. It's not perfect, and it definitely needs to be strengthened. But I know that, like, when I volunteered at my parish, I had to go through a background check. And then I had to go to a 4-hour-long class about how to, you know, like, what's appropriate behavior with children and stuff. I mean, I'm standing up with a chalice in front of the entire parish. Like, what am I, you know, why do I need to go through this class? And they said, well, every single person that volunteers at the parish in our diocese has to go through this. And then you have to renew it every year. So there's all these, and then if there's any kind of an incident, you have to report it to the authorities first, and then you have to report it to the bishop's office. So, I mean, there's all kinds of these standards that have been put in place that, since they've been put in place, there hasn't really been, you know, much abuse. I mean, there'll always be abuse because it's a sin problem when it comes down to it. You know, ever since Adam and Eve ate the fruit in the garden, this is what we have to deal with now. So, yeah, even when the seas get rocky, you just have to remember that we're on this ship that is the church, and it's sailing towards, you know, like the vision that St. John Bosco had of the, you know, the ship that is continuing on with the Pope at the helm, you know. So you have to remember that the ship is continuing on. The seas might get rough, but the ship's not going to go down. So don't abandon the ship. That's what I've been trying to, because I've been talking to a lot of people lately with all this, because in the U.S. especially, it's really...
And it's weird that they all think that they should leave
really
the church because of this.
Right, and I like to tell them at the very end of John 6, after the Bread of Life discourse, Jesus looks and says that, you know, didn't I pick the 12 of you, and one of you is a devil. You know, he's talking about Judas. And so if 1 out of 12 is what is that, like 6% or 7%? You know, if 7% of the original apostles, of the original priests, because they were the first priests, could betray the Son of God and hand him over to be executed, then 1 or 2% of current priests is actually an improvement. You know, but yeah, you just don't leave Peter because of Judas. You know, that's what it really comes down to, is there's going to be sin. The church is made up of people. You know, it's a divinely chartered institution that's made up of human beings. And we are all sinners. You know, even the Pope goes to confession. So even saints went to confession. All the saints, that was one of the things that made them saints, was, you know, frequent confession. And we're all sinners, and sin happens, and we can't let that scandalize us to where we lose faith in God or lose faith in the church because of sin. You know, if we're only Catholic because of the moral turpitude of our leaders, well, then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because they're sinners just like us.
Correct.
You know, they rely on the grace of God just like we do. You know, just because they're a bishop, it doesn't mean they're Superman.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important that we have to realize that the church is holy not because of its members, but in spite of them. The church is holy because of what Christ done on Calvary, not because of anything we add to it.
Yeah. So, what are the biggest takeaways from Mother Teresa's life, apart from her spirituality? I mean, there's plenty of quotes about her talking about people who are unloved and loneliness and Jesus and peace. But what are the biggest things that you can learn from her life and her persistence as a Catholic?
I think that the biggest lesson to learn from her life is we can't all do great things, but we can all do little things with great love. And just like Teresa of Lisieux, you know, we just have to take it from there and do the small things. I mean, Teresa of Lisieux talked about just washing the dishes with a smile on your face, you know, but you can't stop there. You have to keep going with it. Not just, a lot of people, in America, we have, you know, the panhandlers and homeless people and people that are down on their luck and stuff. People hand them $1 and just keep on walking and don't ever recognize that this is a human being standing here in front of you. You know, just take a moment to talk to them. Or if you're at like a soup kitchen, if you're volunteering in a soup kitchen, smile. You know, it is little things like that, and people remember things like that. People say, like, you know, that time when when I was in the soup kitchen, you smiled at me. It was the first time someone smiled at me in 6 months. You know, and it's sad too that there is people who become invisible to society, and I think really that's, you know, to reach out to the margins, to the edges of society. And to really, you know, bring them in, because like I said in the second chapter of the letter of St. James, that we can't have partiality, because it doesn't matter how much money you got in your bank account. Jesus died for every one of us. So I think that's a big lesson to learn from her life, is start small. And who knows? I mean, I don't know if she knew when she went into the streets of Calcutta that she was going to form this, you know, great missionary organization that was going to go out and feed the homeless and you know, care for the dying in 30 or 40 countries around the world. You know, she just thought she was going down to be in the streets with the people and with Jesus. And, you know, that 5-finger gospel, like she said, you did it to me. She just thought that's what she was doing, but it ended up growing. So who knows, you know, if you start in your parish, if you see a need in your parish, if there's a need for whatever, for like single mothers ministry. A lot of parishes have like a single mother, so people that's pregnant that don't have any kind of like a support system. They have ministries where you can donate car seats or diaper bags or things that they need for their children. Or if you see a need in your parish for, you know, like to go form a ministry to go visit old people that don't have, you know, in retirement homes, that don't have anyone to visit them. Because some, you know, I heard a statistic that said that some people in retirement homes will go months without having a visitor. You know, and that's really sad. So imagine what that would be like, the loneliness that would entail. So if you see a need in your parish or in your community to start, if there's not a ministry already going that you can join, start one. You know, like the St. Catherine Drexel had this, she had this desire to start a mission to the Indians in America. And so she went to the Pope in Rome. She went all the way to Rome, and she told him, you need to appoint a person and I'll fund it, because she was a very wealthy woman from Philadelphia. And you need to appoint someone to run this thing. And she had this whole vision, and he looked at her and said, that person is you. So sometimes if you've got an idea and you're not seeing it being done, well, maybe that's God telling you to do it yourself, to start it. You know, and like she did, she was on that train, and she had that call within her call, like she said. And look where it's went from now. Now she's a saint, and they're caring for the sick and dying all around the world.
Okay.
So start small. Don't be afraid to start small. I think that's a big takeaway.
I just want to add that if anybody's going to write to us about the controversies of Mother Teresa, I know the news lately has said that the missionaries of charity were involved in trafficking children and babies, and I just want to say that the Archdiocese of Calcutta, the Archdiocese all over India, has made a formal statement saying that the people implicated had nothing to do with the missionaries of charity, and there was just this whole speculation and this blame game that was in the end, I think, put on the missionaries of charity, but they had nothing to do with it. So
yeah, I heard about that. One of the nuns was sold a baby.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like saying that all Americans are cannibals because Jeffrey Dahmer was a cannibal. You know, so you can't place the blame on a whole organization because one of its members didn't really live up to the standards of the organization.
Yeah. And in the end, I think it wasn't even related to them. I mean, the nuns were not involved in it. So there was a formal statement released on that and announced all over the country so that, people wouldn't start lynching Christians here.
Right. Yeah, see, I've read a lot of controversy. I didn't know Mother Teresa was a because in America, she's been a saint for 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone considered her a saint. Just, back when I was a kid, I lived in New York, and they had a house in the Bronx, the Missionary of Charity, and I remember she came to New York, and it was like people went out, like, lined the streets to see her. And so she was a living saint even when she was alive. And then when I heard there was controversy about her, I kind of looked into it. This was years ago, before she became a saint. And there were some people that were saying that she didn't preach the gospel, like explicitly preach the gospel, and she only cared for the sick and dying. Then there was some that was saying that she would only preach the gospel and she wouldn't miss. So I said, if you're going to be criticized from both sides, and you're right in the middle, then you're probably doing something right.